Hi, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the San Jose State University School of Library and Information Science California Library Association lecture. This is our third CLA lecture. We had our very first one a couple years ago when I just started as the director of the school and I shared my vision. Last year we had Stephen Abram speak to you, and this year I'm really pleased to have Dr. Michael Stevens join us to deliver this lecture. Michael Stevens has been a professor in our program at our school since 2011. He came to us from Dominican University. And he's a very popular speaker. He speaks around the world. In fact, he just came back from Internet Librarian International, and we're in London, and he speaks frequently about emerging technologies, about innovation in libraries. He has a very popular blog that maybe many of you have seen, the Tame the Web blog, as well as a monthly column that he writes for a library journal called Office Hours, which focuses on exploring library and information science education. He's also become an advisor to the Salzburg Curriculum Project that's funded by IMLS. And he is here today, as I said, to join and to speak to us about learning everywhere, the transformative power of hyperlinked libraries. And I'd like to welcome Michael Stevens.
Hi. I can't see you, but I know you're out there. Thank you. I was in Germany for a week doing a talk like this, and then I went to England, and somewhere I picked up a head cold. So I apologize if I'm a little sniffly today, so apologies. Let's dive right in, because I want to get through some stuff and give us time to talk. What we're looking at right now, and probably what you're seeing as you go through all the programs here at CLA, and I want to thank CLA and SJSU for inviting me to do this today. I'm sorry, I should have said that before I jumped in. Libraries are evolving. I teach a couple of classes at SJSU. One of them is called the Hyperlinked Library, and this is a word cloud of the course content for that class. And the Hyperlinked Library is a model of future library service, and we explore the model and we talk about things, and you'll see some of that content here today. The other class is called Transformative Learning, and Technology Literacies, and here's a word cloud for that class as well, and I'll tell you a bit as we go through this. So, library technology is evolving. And one way to approach technology in our institutions is something that I read in Clay Shirky's Cognitive Surplus. It's a wonderful book. I would recommend it to you if you haven't read it. Shirky says there are 3 ways that we might approach technology. The first one is as much chaos as we can stand. The second is sort of the classic traditionalist approval. And that's like, oh, well, the website is a marketing tool. That's what we said in 1996, right? Let's give it to the PR librarian, or let's give it to the marketing librarian. And finally, a negotiated transaction, where the stakeholders come together and they talk about it, and they make decisions and they go forward. Let me ask you, what do you think Shirky advocates for? I heard it in the back of the room. As much chaos as we can stand. Okay? And somebody applauded for chaos. Yay! Okay, how do we reconcile this? And I got to tell you, I've done a lot of talks. And I actually look back. I was here in Sacramento in November 2006 for CLA, and I did a talk on Library 2.0 back then, if you remember Library 2.0. So here we are, and we're still talking about how we deal with technology 6 years later. And I used to do a lot of this. I used to talk a lot about this. But this is really interesting to me. And I think the key is how much can we stand? And what I would charge you with today in your libraries is to say, okay, we can handle this much chaos. And inside of this, it's going to be messy and chaotic, and you're going to be a little nervous sometimes. You're going to be like, what is going on? I don't like it. And that's okay, because you're going to be within these boundaries that you've set up. So with that in mind, I need to remind you that technology is only a tool. It is only a tool that will help us get things done. So at the same time, learning is evolving, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Mesereau's theory of transformative learning says that as we pull in new information and as we learn new things, we're sort of changing our paradigm and our worldview. And it is an active process involving thought, feelings, and disposition. Remember that middle word there, feelings. I think that's important. I should also tell you that as soon as we get done, these slides will be available at Tame the Web, and you can download them. Everything is cited down at the bottom, so you can follow up on some of these slides. So what do we mean when we talk about learning? I think we're talking about formal learning, and I think this could be very daunting to a professor, a room full of laptops. But we're also talking about informal learning. Those things that happen in our libraries or around town or wherever we have an opportunity to find out something new. And I think we should also talk a bit about curiosity. And I think this is the I don't know what I don't know, but I want to find out about it slide. Where you might sit down and say, oh, I want to read about blank. And what do? You might get on your iPad or your laptop, and suddenly 10 minutes has gone by and you found yourself kind of going down a path and experiencing some things and learning some new stuff. We should also know that there are new ways of learning. In Germany, it was very interesting. My colleague was very big on gamification that was driving me around Germany. We were on the Autobahn. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, the entire way. I digress, I'm sorry. But new ways of learning, gamification, for example, is gamifying our catalog, our resources, and actually giving people rewards for experiencing them. And I think that's a lot different than there are no games on the classroom computers. We're also dealing with a new generation of learners, folks that have grown up or are growing up with this technology. So this summer, I look out the window at the place up in Michigan, and our neighbor, Ian, he's 8 years old. He's attached to our Wi-Fi, and he's like this. I said, Ian, what are you doing out the window? And he's like, I'm downloading apps. Okay, he's 8, and he's downloading apps. Mom and Dad said he could download free apps to the iPod Touch. He was downloading games and all sorts of things. And he'd come over and say, look at this cool thing I downloaded. And it's just so interesting to see how he interacted with this technology. So along comes the Horizon Report, which is something I think we should look at very carefully every year it comes out. This is 2012. They, of course, talk about multiple technologies that we should be aware of that are on the horizon. But this report had some other things in it, in the front matter, where they talked about the way things were changing. One of the things they said is the world of work is increasingly collaborative, driving changes in the way student projects are structured. Really, really interesting to think about. And it's really sort of given me food for thought for the way I structure my students' work. And then this. People expect to be able to work, learn, and study whenever and wherever they want to. I love that. And that leads me to the concept of learning everywhere. And this is based on a column I wrote for Office Hours a few months ago. Add this to the mix, A New Culture of Learning by Thomas and Brown. This is an absolutely wonderful book. I would urge you to take a look at it. Cultivating the Imagination for a World of Constant Change. What happens, the authors ask, when we go from this really rote way of educating people from the 21st century into the 21st century, which is much more participatory and much more social? What happens to learning? The authors say that information technology specifically is a platform to share and network imaginations. That is fascinating. And the world is changing faster than ever, and our skill sets have a shorter life. I can't just teach my students how to blog, for example. I need to show them what it means and how it works when you are publishing on the web and what it means when you are participating, because that's going to serve them a lot better than just focusing on one single tool, because we can pick that up as we go along. I want them to be able then, when the next thing comes out, For them to say, oh yeah, I get this because I remember doing this in class, and we did this in class, and now I understand this as well. And one way we do that is with play. And again, Thomas and Brown. Play is the basis for cultivating imagination and innovation. And there's that wonderful word again, imagination. So, learning everywhere. This can be both learning in person, I want to make sure I'm very clear, learning in person as well as learning virtually. It's either or, it's both. So, let's talk a little bit about some types of learning, some types of technology under this banner of learning everywhere. The first is connected learning. And I believe the Hyperlinked Library should give users a way to learn and connect. And just watch what happens. Connected learning, this comes from Henry Jenkins. This is from a blog post he wrote. Jenkins wrote the white paper in 2006 on participatory culture that's been very inspiring to me. He says that we need three things for connected learning to work well. A shared purpose. And I'm going to use the example of my classes here. My students come together, we have the shared purpose of understanding the Hyperlinked Library, or in the other class, understanding what it means to create learning for individuals. It should be production-centered, meaning we're making something. We're creating something new. My students write an emerging technology plan. I'm actually grading them right now, and they're really, really, really good. If I have students in the room, you did really well. So we're making something, and that, I think that's key for offering chances for learning, is actually having the opportunity to make something, not just, the old standard, I'm telling you something and then I want you to tell it back to me. And finally, it should be openly networked. And this blasts open the walled garden and blasts open that sort of cocoon we've put around for the longest time, even in online learning, where it all happens in here. And it used to be it all happened in the classroom, right? It should be openly networked. And I was just talking to a student before we started. And we were talking about the blogging that we did and how that goes out to the world. And we've actually had practitioners and authors leave comments on our students' blogs because they are openly networked. So here's just an example of what Course Site looks like. This runs on WordPress. Just wanted to let you know what I was talking about. WordPress and BuddyPress together making a social network that is entirely open for the students to learn and work and collaborate in. Mobile learning. Okay, remember little Ian with his device. Mobile learning is really, it's fascinating to me as well. The Hyperlinked Library offers collections and access anywhere. I was sitting in the hotel bar on a recent trip, and I was talking to the bartender. There weren't many people there. And we were talking about his phone, and he had a new iPhone, and he said it does everything. He was on the Wi-Fi in the hotel, so he had web, email, video, text, music, everything. And he said, I have the world of information in my hand. And I said, well, I'm going to go talk to a room full of librarians tomorrow, and I'm going to tell them you said that, because I think it really illustrates how people think about their devices. Pew Internet and American Life published The Future of the Internet 3, and one of the things they said about the future of the internet is the mobile device is going to be the primary connection tool by 2020. Very recent, from Mashable, citing a study from ITU, there are 6 billion active cell phones worldwide. At Internet Librarian International last week, I got to hear a keynote by the new executive director of the British Library. And one of the things he talked about was the British Library putting collections in the palm of your hand via this device, via iPad, via whatever type of smartphone you may have. This is an example of one of their collections. This is a map, a historic map. And you can actually read about it and then tap on it and get a very high resolution version right in the palm of your hand. And then there's an example. A couple summers ago, I became enamored of a song from the late 1960s. It was featured in a movie, and it was one of those songs that gets in your brain. And I played it and played it and played it. And then I did that thing that we do in the library biz, right? Is you do some research. You find the lyrics, you find the pages where people are discussing the song, and you find out everything you can about it. And I found one little tiny glimmer where somebody said, oh, at the University of blah blah, they have the original 5 pages that the author wrote the song on legal pad. I was like, cool. So I go looking and I can't find it. So what did I do? I turned to my network on Twitter. And I said, can somebody help me find this? I feel really dumb. And someone came back and said, I found one page. They kind of highlighted at a site not under the library banner, but over, like somewhere else. And there it was, and that was really interesting. So I wanted to see all 5. Okay, I played the professor card. I emailed the university archivist. And I said, just curiosity. I'd really like to see these pages. Are they available online? Like I thought maybe there was something secret I could log into and there it would be. And I got back a response, forgive me. They said, no, it's not available online due to issues of preservation. Really? And copyright. The copyright, I don't know how I feel. If you have something that is so incredibly unique, this is the thing that you want to put in the palm of people's hands. You want to make it available. For the longest time, we've done this. We've had our stuff in here, and it's been like, we have the stuff, right? I remember the days on the reference desk, or I remember the days on the reference desk, sorry, where it was kind of like, you're like, yeah, I'm looking that up, but I'm not going to show you what I'm doing. That was the 90s. And now, I lost my clicker. Now, we want people to know what we're doing. The same goes for collections. Now, not all the stuff that everybody has, but the most unique things, like those song lyrics, those should be everywhere so we could see them. And for people like me, and I'm probably not the only one that gets really curious about whatever song, absolutely, it should be out there and it should be accessible. Hyperlocal learning, then, another avenue of learning everywhere, is this idea that we can learn in specific geographic locations. 2 weeks ago, I was at the National Library of Germany for a talk similar to this one. And I got onto the Foursquare, which is a social network app on my smartphone that checks me in to geographic locations. So I checked in, and there's a few interesting things going on. Let me ask the room, too. How many of you are on Foursquare? Okay, there's a few. Okay, when you get to a place, your phone with the GPS in it, smartphone, knows where you're at, and it will say, oh, you're at the Marriott in San Jose. Would you like to check in? And then you can tell your friends on Foursquare, and you can actually get it to tell your friends on Facebook and Twitter as well. What is interesting to me, and this seems really kind of silly right now, right? It's a little silly. It's also gamified, because every time you check in, you get points. If you check in enough times, yeah, you get badges. What's interesting to me, though, is you can also assign information to this location. For example, here are some of the photos shared and linked to the German National Library. And I delighted in telling those librarians that this was a collection they had no control over. It was created by the users, by anybody that came in to that library and took a photo and then added it. And I think there's some very kind of beautiful photos there. I think all of them are kind of beautiful in their own way. This is fascinating to me. It became very clear. I was in Istanbul a couple years ago speaking at Library Week there, and I had a day to be a tourist. And I went to Hagia Sophia, which is a very old church. And I checked in because the most historic part of Istanbul is blanketed in strong Wi-Fi. Incredible. So I checked in. Here's the mayor. If you check in enough times, there's Ibrahim. You become a mayor. Take a look. There's the photos down there at the bottom. But then there's something called tips. Tap on the tips, and you get a list of information that people have left behind. For example, the inside is even more interesting than the outside, or the place is a must-see in Istanbul. Scroll down a little bit more, and someone said, don't miss the recently uncovered paintings on the ceiling of the 4th century Christian figures. I was like, I'm there. And there they are. And that's the Archangel Michael. Yay. I was really, really impressed. And I would not have known about that except for that little bit of information. Now, it's so silly right now, but what is it going to mean in the next 3, 5, 10 years when more and more information, knowledge, is assigned to geographic spaces? Barrington Library in Illinois has done a sweet, witty little thing. They are giving a special. If you check in 10 times on Foursquare, you get to pick a book from the librarian's secret stash. I know, super fun. I met these librarians at PLA when we were at PLA this year, and I said, so tell me about the secret stash, because I use this slide in my talks. And they said it's the neatest thing in the world. It's the books they can't put in the book sale for whatever reason. And people are just overjoyed because they get to go behind the desk, and then they get to pick out a book. And they told me a story of a young lady whose dad got the 10th check-in, and he let the little girl pick the book, and she was just overjoyed. So it's a really powerful thing. Here's the bookworm badge. If you check in enough times, you get a badge for different things. This is the check in enough times at a library badge. Yeah, kind of silly. Nice. So hurtling toward newer ideas with mobile learning, augmented reality. And this is prototypical. This is Frank Lloyd Wright's home and studio in Oak Park, Illinois. And this is what could be if I point my phone at that building with an augmented reality app. I might get little bubbles of information, okay, assigned geographically to that space. And I actually showed this to the Oak Park Library. I was there doing a talk for them and said, this is something that you all may eventually do. Geospatial information curation and stewardship. It's a big mouthful just to say that we may eventually help people take care of the data, knowledge, whatever you want to call it, assigned to places. I think we may also become embedded local experts, where if someone is standing in our community, and I mean that very broadly, public like a city, public library, university, that type of community, and someone asks a question, we may get that question and we may be able to answer it. Participatory learning. This is absolutely incredible to me. This is the University of Iowa. One of my students actually blogged about this. I was like, oh, that's a great example. They are doing a site called DIY History, and they are asking the public to help them transcribe scanned pages of, for example, the American Cookbook, 1920 to 1930. So take a look, and I over there, the top level, I'm sorry I can't go over there and point. If it says completed, that means it's passed through a process, that it's been typed in by one person and then somebody has checked it. Down below, it says needs review, so it's still waiting for that second pass. Take a look. They're doing transcription. The middle one says correct, coming soon, where they're going to be able to make corrections, and then tagging and commenting. So people can actually tag different things, photos, pages from the books, etc., and leave comments. It's fascinating. So I wrote a bit about this, working with the Salzburg curriculum and the concepts of Jenkins' participatory culture. One of the things I think we'll be doing in libraries is actively working to preserve a community's digital heritage. And I think it's both the work of libraries and museums, but the best part is when we involve the community, because that's when it's going to become so powerful. And it really becomes that thing, that conversation. Whatever technology we're using, don't worry about that, but really it's just enabling a conversation. Then there's creation-based learning. The Hyperlinked Library creates. The Dock Library in Delft, Holland, their tagline is keep stories, share stories, make stories. And this one is the most interesting right now, and I think it's the thing that's right out there on the edge of what we're doing right now. It's a wonderful book by Dr. Mimi Ito and a group of researchers called Hanging Out, Messing Around, and Geeking Out. And they looked at how young people use information technology to live and to learn. Chicago Public Library created UMedia from that book, a space for young people to create, to hang out, to geek out, to play games, to do whatever in a very safe environment in the library. Skokie Public Library, I'm actually partnered with them doing some research right now. They have a digital media lab where they are helping people, and here's an example of Talia, who is a high school student, needing to make a video for a class project. She did not have the technology, but the library did, and they helped her, and it came out so well, she put it up on YouTube, and the library asked if they could put it on their blog, and she said absolutely. She was overjoyed. San Mateo County Library digitizes the stories of the community, and they actually align it with their mission. And this is a quote, and I think this is so powerful. And the talks in Germany, I think people really responded to this. They spell it out. This will help us better understand ourselves and one another and connect our lives to the people and places that make up our community. That's why we are doing this. Another example from Skokie is Library U, where members of the community who are experts in whatever thing, think about the thing that you are an expert at, they record little videos. There's Jeff, he's a beekeeper. And there's Donna, she's a quilting expert. And here's the digital media lab itself. This is Tony, and he was working on a music composition the day that I was there. He let us hear some of his music. It was beautiful. These young men were working on a video for their high school. They had left the high school and came over to the public library to use the public library's computers. And here's Fountaindale Public Library. Again, right outside of Chicago. Really interesting. If we're doing trend spotting, if we're sort of looking at what the future can be, when something like this falls into my aggregator and I see it over and over again, this is something to watch. They released a press release that said, the new renovation we're doing is going to include 6 sound recording studios, 2 video recording studios, and 3 group collaboration rooms. This is something to pay attention to. How do we inspire creativity? Really impressed with what Oak Park Public Library has done. They had a space at their front entrance that was unused. It was a room. They painted the walls right, and they dubbed it the Idea Box. And every month it's something different. This month it was Share Your Favorite Book on a Post-it Note month. Very simple. You put a table out, markers, Post-it notes, and you let people cover the walls. That inspires creativity. For example, what's your favorite book? I Am the Messenger by, I forgot. But in a nice participatory example, someone comes along and says, it's by Marcus Zusak. I love that. And now, have you heard this phrase lately? Have you heard it at conference so far? Okay, this is a big deal. Anybody got a 3D printer in their library? Not yet. Okay, soon. Okay, this is a 3D printer, and this may be a little new. This is going to be something I would charge you with making sure you look into in the next few weeks. A makerspace, as example, Fayetteville Free Library has their fabrication lab, and they were one of the first. A makerspace includes devices that print things, not just paper, but things. This kind of blows my mind. Here's what it looks like again. This is a 3D printer. It uses a material that it can then cut and manipulate. You put in data, and something comes out on the other side. And I'm trying to wrap my mind around this, and I found this. I think this came from one of my students, too, and they're blogging so good. So thank you to whoever put this out there. A blog called Savvy Housekeeping. This has nothing to do with libraries, but this person was cheering the wonders of 3D printing. Their dishwasher broke. It was that little piece down there. That little thing broke. They were able to fabricate one and fix it without calling the repair person. Up top, the end of the spout came off of the watering can and broke. They were able to fabricate one. This really helped it make sense to me. Can you imagine a space in your library where somebody can come in, and I don't know all the particulars yet myself, and say, I need to make this thing. Help me. That's something I think is in our future. If you ask me what I see for the future of libraries, and this is all types of libraries, it's all these wonderful, beautiful words that begin with C: community, creativity, collaboration. And who knew that this one would become so important as we go forward? Just think of all the possibilities in a creation space that's not only digital creation, but physical creation as well. Thomas and Brown say, where imaginations play, learning happens. Just think about the possibilities of making anything, following your brain wherever it goes. Learning happens. And that, to me, is learning everywhere. So how do we start? How do we get going on this? A few ideas. For sure, we need to think about digital literacies. We need to promote them, first for our staff and then for our constituents, our users, our clients, our members. David Lankus gave the keynote at Internet Librarian International, and he did one of his things. He was on a recording, but he kind of pounded a bit. He said, we can't call them patrons anymore, and we surely can't call them users, which is a word I use, users. Members is the thing he kind of put out there. And I kid you not, every time anybody opened their mouth at this 2 days in London, and they started to say users, they were like, oh, members, or whatever you want to call it. So however we want to think about our users, and I'm stuck on users, I guess, we're in a great position to show them how to effectively move across various channels, platforms, medias, etc. It starts first with staff. And this can be daunting. This is all the different ways that we might talk to each other in the social connected web. Digital inclusion, also very important to think about. The Institute of Museum and Library Services defines digital inclusion as the abilities of individuals and groups to access and use information and communication technologies. This is something they're looking very closely at. This is something we should also look closely at. The opposite of this is digital exclusion. We want the library to be a place, just like Talia in the earlier slide, where people can get access to the technology they need to do something, to make something. Self-directed digital learning, this is one of my research interests. How many of you have been through a Learning 2.0 program? 23 things, possibly. Okay, all right. Not as many as I thought, interesting. Learning 2.0 is now officially 6 years old. And since its inception in August of 2006, it's been replicated over 1,000 times in libraries and other institutions. I've been very lucky to do some research on this area. I did a study in Australia and found that if you have gone through this program as library staff, you report that you are very comfortable or comfortable learning about new technologies. To me, this is an important first step, is creating a culture of learning for the staff in the library first, because then it feeds into what we can do with our public, whatever we choose to call them. I'm confident I can learn new technologies. Confident is another key word that cropped up in the study. It might also take the form of a physical sort of exploratory encounter session with technology. And this is another model that we can replicate, both for staff and for the public. This is Highland Park Public Library. They had a staff institute day that I was asked to speak at, and I got there early, so they were having their technology encounter time right before, and it was called Technology Passport. And there were stations around the library. This one was the e-reader station. You could go, you would get a little hands-on, you could try it, you could experience it, and here's what the passport looked like. You fill your passport, and you were put into a drawing for a Kindle. It was gamified. People were excited, and they gave away like 5 Kindles, so it was kind of a big deal to get the staff excited about learning. One of the other things I think comes out of these experiences, such as Learning 2.0, or actually exploring these spaces, is the development of the personal learning network. And this is something I would charge you all with as well. You probably have one. Maybe you don't know that it's called a personal learning network, but it's really great to think about. I think Twitter is one of the most important facets of a personal learning network. And think of how far we've come. Since 2007, when it used to be, Twitter was, well, I'm having my lunch, I'm walking down the street, and whatever. And now, there is so much sharing, and the links are going back and forth. And just as evidenced by being at conference and following along with what people are saying and using a conference hashtag, it can be so powerful. And In London last week, we had people all over the world that were participating via that hashtag. So the hyperlinked librarian then builds a thriving, evolving PLN, sharing and participating. I don't want to stop with just lurking. I want you to share. I want you to participate. I want you to be a part of it. This, to me, is continuous learning. And I have a little plaque in my office that says, "I am still learning," from Michelangelo. I bought it in England many years ago. And that inspires me because the minute I stop, I'm not of use to anybody, especially my students, and I need to find something else to do. Then, once we get this squared away, we turn to our users. And we show them what it means to create a personal learning network. And we show them all the possibilities with these technologies. And really, I think this helps them make sense of the world. And that's that, to me, is the business we're in libraries. So, the hyperlinked library. What should we do with this idea of learning everywhere? I will charge you with this. You need to be willing to learn. For the students in the room, when you graduate, guess what? You don't stop learning. It's going to keep going. For those in the room that are practicing, that are professional librarians, always continue to learn. We also have to be willing to explore, to constantly explore and play with new things. And that's inside and outside of our world. We also need to be willing to listen to our users and what they're asking for, and be ready to respond. And we need to be willing to teach. I got my master's degree in 1995. I was working at St. Joe County Public Library in South Bend, Indiana. I had no idea that I would become an internet trainer by 1996 when I finished my degree. By 2000, I was the head of the training and technology department at the library. And then suddenly I found myself going back for my doctorate. Who knew that teaching would become such an important part of our jobs? And that's for everybody, not just the internet trainer at your library, and not just the instructional librarian, but for everybody. Because it's going to happen across the desk. It's going to happen in the stacks. It's going to happen wherever you happen to be, that you answer a question or you show somebody something new or you change their life a little bit. And we need to be willing to leave our physical walls, virtually as well as out the door and into the community. We can't sit and wait for people to come to us because they're walking around with their world of information in their hand, and they're not going to come and see us. So what do we see for the future? What does the future look like for libraries? And real quick, and then we're going to have some time to talk because I want to hear from you all. Communications technology is going to continue to change. It's going to continue to connect us. We want this. We want this to happen, and we're going to use it to our advantage. Mobile tech is going to be ubiquitous. Our world is going to travel with us, and libraries and librarians are going to be present and available everywhere we go through whatever device we're carrying around. Now, the library space is not going away because sometimes when I get off on this, it's everywhere, it's in the palm of our hand, people think, you want all the libraries to go away. No, I don't. I was sitting at a table with an architect, a library architect, and I said, well, I think the library should be everywhere. He's like, well, you're trying to put me out of a job. I said, no. The library is a community hub. It should be flexible, open, and connected. If you're building a new building, make it as flexible as possible. So what right now is doing one thing, in a few years, it'll be a space for something else. It's a meeting space. It's an anything space. And we're going to help our users create, curate, and share their own digital content. And I love putting that word curate with the concept of our users, because they're going to be doing it too. And we're going to use the latest technology to make connections, to gather people, to make connections between individuals, groups, and connect them to the world. Planning is human-centered. And opportunities to learn are going to spread out from this central hub everywhere. So these are the key ideas, but in a nutshell, I really believe the library should encourage the heart. And now we're back to Library 2.0, which way back then I said, well, let it all fall away, and it really should be about the library encouraging the heart. Technology with heart is just that. It's not a tool, but it's a way to make a connection with someone. It's a way to let somebody know you're interested in their lives. It's a way to help them be a better person. We have such a great potential with all of these tools and all these avenues. The Hyperlinked Library uses technology to engage the heart, the mind, and the spirit. So how do we go forward? One more time. Break down barriers. Look for barriers in your collections. Put the most unique stuff out there so I can find it. Look at barriers in your physical space. Look at policy you have. Look at your signage. And if you've seen me do big, long talks, you've seen me talk about library signage. And let's be nice to each other. Let's be nice. So go around your library and think and look at the signs you put up. You know, no this, no that, no cell phones. It's all the stuff we've seen. I get so angry, somebody might say, I'm going to make a policy about this. I'm angry. I made a sign. And value everyone. Value everyone that comes into your building. I know, this is a classic. You can't, I'm going to say, you can't make this stuff up. You really can't. But value everyone. Let everyone be valued. And remember that stories have great power. Not only the stories that we share, right? But the stories that we're going to help our users create. Those have incredible power. And we can take those stories and share them with our governing bodies and say, look at all the cool stuff that we're doing and look at how we're changing people's lives. And be human. One of the great things about these tools is they enable us to be human. You can share, you can have your own voice, you can make a difference. And watch the horizon for the next thing. Watch for the Horizon report next year and read about the technologies and what they're saying. Always be trend spotting. And always be learning, absolutely. And have fun. I think this stuff should be fun. We should enjoy this stuff. And know that it is okay to fail. And that's that whole idea again of games and playing and experience. I came to libraries in 1991 and I came into a culture of perfect where not a lot got done until we had sat in a room and talked about it for a very long time. It's okay. I want things to go up in beta. I want short timelines for you all when you're doing something. If you're going to change your website, take no more than 6 months because it's all going to change anyway. And invite the users in. Say, come on in, both virtually and physically. This is your space too. And make them comfortable. So there, maybe the word member is kind of important. You're a member of the library. Come on in. And take risks. I went to a conference in September called the Risk and Reward Conference. It was in Colorado, and it was put on by the folks that created the AnyThink libraries and some other really dynamic Colorado librarians. And all the organizers wore these shirts that said, better safe than sorry may be the most dangerous thing ever said. So think about chaos. That's where we started. Remember, chaos. And decide that in here it is going to be messy. And there's going to be some risk-taking going on. And it's okay if we mess up because we'll learn from it. That's one of the best things I want you to take away. It's okay if we mess up because we'll learn from it. And be creative. Hopefully in this chaotic space, creativity will be one of the #1 things you can do. And remember, please, to bring your heart with you. And focus on the heart as you make decisions and you make changes. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I want to know what the name of the song was.
All right. I'm vague. It's very vague. What do y'all think? Ode to Billy Joe. Why did he jump off the bridge? And what did they throw off of the bridge? There's just so much. And Bobby Gentry has actually said she didn't even know what it was about when she wrote it. So, another comment or question? Yeah, up here? Oh.
So I'm really excited about all the possibilities you've talked about, and you mentioned that technology is just a tool. I'm taking another class now that's looking at diversity issues in information environments and bringing up questions of rural environments and developing countries that have much less connectivity and are using other tools like radio to reach remote areas. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on bringing the kind of participatory culture that these tools make possible to places that do not have the privilege of constant connectivity.
Absolutely, and that's a wonderful question. I was very lucky to be in South Africa this summer, and I was at a conference, and I got to spend a lot of time with the librarians there, and they are working so hard to make their libraries a place for people to get connected and to have those experiences that we're talking about. I've also did some work in Australia, and it was very striking to me when I heard from someone. I'd done the big Hyperlinked Library talk a few years ago, and someone wrote to me and said, I'd like to adapt this for my community. We live over a half an hour from a paved road, and we're X hundreds of miles from blank. I said, sure, please go ahead. And it was fascinating to see how she had changed what I was saying with the tools of the day, just kind of sort of bringing it back to a people thing. And it's here where I can 100% say the library as a physical place is not going away, because that's going to be the meeting place where all this stuff will happen. And hopefully there will be strong connectivity there. It's incredible to think about. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I really appreciate you're in that class, because I think that's an important thing to think about. So another question. Thank you. Sorry.
Hi, I'd just like the comment on your local public library and the importance. I did a study a couple years ago with Envirocell, and we looked at how people used our library and the spaces there and the flexibility and what's important. And one of the things that our community said is that libraries are local. They appreciate their public library, their ownership. And I think this really supports what you were saying of the uniqueness of the digitizing your local papers and your creating that sort of that heart, that the heart part of the community is their local library. And I think we sort of have gone full circle, because when I started in the profession many years ago, it was, the books were behind me and I got to give them the information. And now we sort of have gone full circle where many people are connected now, but they need to come back to the fact that the uniqueness of their library is, the analogy is your local paper. Your local paper now has become more important than your national paper, because that speaks to you. And I get more comments when something's in my local paper about the library than anything else. So I just wanted to sort of support what you were saying as far as specialness and uniqueness that you have to really leverage.
I really appreciate that, and you said that well. And I think it's a point to make again that the most unique things we have are those things so special to the community. So absolutely, thank you for that. Other comments, questions? Right here.
I want to just make a comment about the maker spaces. About 3 blocks from here is something called the Tech Shop, which is actually a commercial enterprise, but which shows all of the technologies that can be used in a community. This happens to be Silicon Valley. It's very, very rich. I would advise you to take a tour of it and see the type of things that are being offered there. Also, in May, in this area, there's something called the Maker Fair.
Yes.
And if you have not been to one of these, or you can actually look on the web and see some of the examples from it. It's incredible. And our county fairs are sort of fading away in this area, but the Maker Fair, it just grows every year. It's incredible.
2 excellent recommendations for field trips. And what a great way to learn. Absolutely. Thank you. Another question? How are we? I'm sort of lost track of the time here. Yeah, we got a couple more minutes. I can't really see. Nice. Oh, right.
I'll come to the microphone.
Oh, thank you. Hi.
In the lifelong learning theme, I finished my portfolio a couple of years ago, my MLIS, and one quote I came along, but can't remember who said it, is with technology you need to learn to unlearn. And I think my favorite example of that is Microsoft. Sometimes you approach their new software with all the knowledge that you had because you know you could do it again, and then you discover, no, I have to relearn this, and I'm just going to have to go approach it fresh, and not have any fear of that, and not say I can't do this because it's not doing what it used to do. And so I just wanted to add that.
I think you're saying something really important too, and it's that idea of fear. I think that's the number one thing that sometimes prevents us from making some of these changes or from moving forward. And sometimes it's very personal, and I think that's one thing Learning 2.0 has really helped, because there you can say, wow, I've never done this before, and there's probably a bunch of people around you that are doing the same thing. So it's that kind of getting over that that's why I like to say it up here. I'm still learning, and there's tons of stuff I don't know. The more we say that, I think the more we sort of open ourselves up to learn. Thank you for that. Any other thoughts?
Looks like we're winding down, but let's give Michael another big round of applause.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.